of Dr. Lamba's awakening call. Canada has been trying for a long time for a seat on Security Council of UN, knowing fully well that in the larger picture, occupying a seat on Security Council, and that to a temporary seat, has no significance. Compare it with Brazil and India and South Africa trying for a permanent seat on Security Council, and Canada trying, and till now it has not been successful. Would it be successful this time? Prime Minister Trudeau has gone to Africa to request for their votes. But then the ill will that Canada has earned from countries like China, who are very strong, and Russia, and both these countries are permanent members of United Nations. Would Canada be successful in its endeavor? The Prime Minister going to Africa may not be very helpful. In Middle East, Saudi Arabia would never be in favor of this country. Syria would not support it. Iran would not support it, because all those countries are not happy. India would not support it. And when I was amazed when I saw the Foreign Minister, Francois Champagne, said after his return from Africa that Canada's chance of winning are strong, and he used a very, very typical diplomatic way, cautiously optimistic. He is not saying he's optimistic, he is cautiously optimistic. And earlier, his parliamentary secretary had gone. Now, Foreign Minister had went. I know the Prime Minister has gone. In 1 month, there have been 4 trips, because apart from these, even the International Development Minister Krina had gone. So, the point is that the Canada's low spending on foreign aid and its contribution of only a nominal, a few dozen military personnel to UN peacekeeping force is going to hurt Canada. And when he says, the Foreign Minister says, the Prime Minister says, that the support they received from the host government makes him cautiously optimistic, that means practically they said no. But they did not say no in brutal terms. We might consider, we look at the other competitors. And what about the other competitors who are the claimants of the seat? The biggest competition Canada is going to get is from 2 countries, Norway and Ireland. There are going to be 2 temporary seats available in this most powerful world body. In the month of June, the election would be there. And the countries which are elected would have a 2-year term starting not this year but next year. Now, compared to Canada, both Norway and Ireland spend much more in foreign aid and have contributed more personnel in the peacekeeping missions. What happens? Now imagine it. Countries vying for seats who want to win require 2/3 support in the secret ballot process. That means more than 120 countries must support Canada. Africa alone has 54 countries voting. Now let's come to the other aspect. Out of 54, you can be sure not more than 20 countries are going to vote for Canada, because Somalia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Mali, they are not going to vote in their favor. Coming to Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Syria, Iran, Lebanon. Lebanon is because of the Iran impact, are not going to vote in their favor. Israel also may not vote in the favor because the Prime Minister did not follow Trump's advice or lead and did not shift the embassy to Jerusalem. As a matter of fact, the open support given to Palestine has always annoyed Israel. There has been a sea change from Harper era when Canada was all support for Israel, but not now. So Israel would not be there. So Middle East, they don't have a majority. Want to say 2/3, they are not likely to get even 50%. In Africa, maybe 40%. Come to Asia. Myanmar is definitely going to oppose Canada, China, Philippines. You remember the leader of Philippines had practically abused and sent the garbage back to Canada. India, and under the impact of India maybe Nepal and Bhutan, but I am not so sure. Then the impact of China, Albania is not going to support Canada. Under the impact of Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and other countries, all the Stans and Latvia, Lithuania, they are not going to support Canada. The latest right-wing controlled countries like Hungary, they are not going to support Canada. So getting 2/3 seems to be well nigh possible. The major players are today the Muslim countries and the Asian countries. And two of the major players have unresolved diplomatic relations with Canada. That means Saudi Arabia and China. And India, you remember the classic visit of Prime Minister Trudeau to India. So, these countries have their own impact, they have their own followers. For example, do you think that Mali, which has always been supported by India, would go against the desire of India to vote in favor of Canada, especially when they have no desire to antagonize India? China has spread its diplomatic footprints into Africa in a big extent and is huge spending on infrastructure. Its own development activities over there has won those people. And all these countries, the big influencers in Africa, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, they are opposing Canadian candidacy. Prime Minister Trudeau is committed that Canada must be elected to Security Council. But he was committed in 2015 as well, when he said Canada is back. That was his pledge. But in 2010 we lost to Portugal. Portugal is a much smaller country. Economically it's much more fragile. And the conservatives could not get it when conservatives are supported by Saudi Arabia, Israel, India, China, all the countries. So, at that time, Portugal, much smaller, much weaker, much poorer than Canada, won. Now it's Norway and Ireland. So what is the probability? Do you remember in 2015, again they had tried. And then in September, Canada sent a high-powered delegation of former Prime Minister Joe Clark and Jan Chrétien. They had gone to the UN General Assembly to persuade, manipulate the world leaders to press Canada's case. But then, as Canadian Global Affairs Institute Director Colin Robertson said, that it was Trudeau who had needed to go, not the former Prime Minister. The former Prime Ministers are the former Prime Ministers. They do not have much say. You know, it was as ridiculous as sending Bob Rae to Myanmar, Burma. The only Prime Minister who has global impact today is Stephen Harper. I'm talking about the former Prime Minister. He is only globally recognized and accepted person. So, it was a setback in the foreign policy. What Trudeau needs is to get out of the country and campaign a brace for a real setback. He has got out, but then my worry is that when he gets out, he doesn't do what was required was, if I was there, to take a very innovative approach. Now, before I come to that, let's take up the other cases, the other competitors. Norway's done case. It is winnable. Nobody can deny it. The sort of foreign aid it gives, the sort of reputation it has, the sort of economy it has, and the sort of commitment to a peacekeeping it has. When it participates, is going to win. Second is Ireland. Would Canada be able to edge out Ireland? This is the major question. Until now, the government of Canada has not bothered to look at this aspect. When you are competing with somebody, you have got to show in which way you are better. What Trudeau should have done is set a target date for Canada to meet the benchmark of spending, the development spending of 0.7% of GDP. Do you know what is Canada's present spending on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals? Less than 0.3%. Less than 0.3%, while Ireland and Norway both are exceeding that. Canada's politicking as UN votes essentially boils down to one factor. Can it, repeat, can it offer in concrete terms specific help to the specific regions and specific countries? And when you go to Africa, it has to be about foreign aid. When you go to Iran, it has got to be about the nuclear ban on them. When you go to Saudi Arabia and then you criticize the leadership and the human rights, you are not going to get their votes. When you are not able to divest your judicial system from your political system, you are not going to get China's vote. What is that Trudeau government or Canada are offering to the other countries that they should vote for Canada? This is simply vote buying game. Can you buy their votes? Can you? And buying doesn't mean to be economically, but diplomatically, by persuasion, by dangling some carrot. But then if you adopt a high and mighty attitude, we are the best, we are the custodians of the human rights, gender rights, and then China or Saudi Arabia are going to kick you in the butt. Okay, go to hell. What we need is a very solid campaign. It's not just nice words and friendly, homely talking about Canada is bad and not doing anything about it. Let's be clear, when it comes to overall budget, there are going to be discussions about that. And as things are today, the hopes of Canada getting a Security Council seat are not very high. It is possible, but it's not probable. The probability of Canada getting a temporary 2-year seat on Security Council is possibly 1 in 8, but more than that. And I am taking all the parameters: foreign aid, non-interference, non-ceremonial attitude, diplomatic clarity, and showing people that you are really who can be depended on. Israel no longer believes you. India no longer believes you. China no longer believes you. Saudi Arabia no longer believes you. And still you want them to give their votes to you. What for? Why? These are the questions that the Trudeau government needs to answer if it hopes to oust Ireland, which is possible but not probable. Let's see what happens in June. Until and unless Trudeau government wakes up and makes a sustained claim, adheres rather than just states, we follow the SDGs and not contribute 0.7%, just contribute 0.3%, a bit less than that. There has to be connectivity between your statements and your work. Your policies must reflect that you are really interested in maintaining peace, harmony and goodwill. Till now, Trudeau government has failed to do so. Let's see how it happens. I wish government all success, but I am keeping my fingers crossed. Let's see. Thank you.